Hello, I'm Emma Hartnell-Baker, creator of the Speech Sound Pics approach, where we're shaping reading and spelling brains. We know so much now about brain plasticity and about the fact that we can actually modify brain networks. So we're shaping reading and spelling brains using specific early intervention strategies that are also appropriate for children who are already struggling or who are at risk of struggling. One of the biggest changes I'd like to see is with regards to phonemic awareness. It's teaching phonological awareness before we even teach the phonics. If you had a look at another clip, I was explaining why children don't need to know the letter names in order to be able to decode and encode, to be able to read and spell in the early years. I want them to look at them and see them as pictures of sounds, the sound pics. So the first one is just a picture for the speech sound A. The next one is a picture for the speech sound B. There are more than one sound pics for most of the speech sounds, and in order to help all children, we need to teach this alphabetic code systematically. But with the speech sound pics approach, we're also helping for self-discovery, which means that we can really help every single child reach their potential, even if you've got 33 different children, completely different children, in any one class. It is very, very different teaching a whole class, a whole prep class, to read, write and spell with confidence before the end of the prep year. Very different, you know, just because you might have taught your child or your 2 children or your 8 children or your grandchildren, whatever, to read using a specific method or whatever you're doing, that's great. And please don't presume that this is going to work for every child, because we now know why so many children struggle and what we can do about it. And a lot of it has got to do with how the brain works. It's about modifying brain networks. It's about shaping reading and spelling brains, as I said at the beginning. So we need to be much more aware of what's happening internally rather than what seems to be happening externally. And a lot of the things that we're doing at the moment mask problems. Children seem to be reading okay, but their spelling is awful. A lot of the whole language-based readers, children who are good at guessing, memorising, whatever, they go through those quite well, but it doesn't actually show us if they understand the code and if they understand the skills needed for really good reading and spelling. Now, phonological awareness, as I say, is the biggest predictor of reading failure, and we know around 35% of any prep class is going to come with poor phonological awareness, regardless of how much they've been read to, sung to, how intelligent the parents are, whatever. They're going to come into the class with poor phonological awareness. Now, this is something that we can change quite quickly, and we can have a lot of fun doing it, but this is something we need to prevent. We need to prevent difficulties by really starting proactively with phonological awareness from the beginning. And this makes the teaching of phonics a lot easier. But what's happening at the moment is we tend to have 35% with poor phonological awareness. We use outdated strategies or resources, and that percentage of the children stay at the bottom. And it's almost accepted as sort of a norm. And that's what I want to see change. And that's what I'm trying to help people to do. But we have to be very specific, very systematic and explicit in our teaching. So we're going to start off with a group of 6 speech sounds. S, A, T, P, I, N. Now here you can see one of the representations for all of those speech sounds. One of the representations you might think of as the letter S. Here it is. This is a picture of S. It's a sound pic, S, one of them. Here's a picture of A. There's a picture of T. There's a picture of P. There's a picture of I and a picture of N. And don't get confused with the actual pictures there. We're looking at the letters because they are the pictures of the sounds. So with this first group, we're going to attack reading and spelling at all angles. So we're going to teach all the skills, or the basic skills needed for reading and spelling, just using this group of 6 speech sounds and the corresponding sound pics. Think how much easier it's going to be for the children when we're just focusing on these. We're not sort of randomly choosing different letters and whatever. We're just choosing this group, and we're teaching children to be able to hear the smaller parts in words to develop the phonological awareness, even just focusing on this group. So children can be hearing. What word can you hear? S, it. What word can you hear? Ant. So what they need to do there is they need to be able to blend. The blending is really important. So if I say s, it, they need to be able to blend it into the word sit. And this is why we have the speech sound, animals and teddies and whatever, because the children use them to, they only speak in speech sounds. So they might say to the children, it, and the child has to blend it into the word. Obviously they aren't really, it's just a prop that we're using. The other thing that we need to teach, so we need to teach that being able to hear the smaller parts in the words. We need them to be able to hear where they are in the word. So ant, is the a at the beginning or the middle or the end? Tap, is the a at the beginning, the middle or the end? So do all the possible things you can to help children to be able to hear those smaller parts in words and to know what we use to represent them, or one of the representations. So I can ask a child to spell pan, and even if they don't know those letters, they don't know how to match them, they can still hear p, a, n, pan, so they're spelling a word. So right from the beginning, when I'm saying to a child, can you spell this word for me? Listen for how many sounds, listen for the sounds. Pin, then they can hear p, I, n. If you go to speechsoundpics.com, you'll see, and go to Getting Started, you'll see 2 or 3 free lessons, or most of the things we provide are free, lessons to give you ideas about developing that ability to be able to hear the smaller parts in words, and that's the phonological awareness. So there, I'm sort of talking as if I'm talking to the child. You can watch it with the child, but it's really to give you ideas of the kind of things you can do. It's the kind of things you can do when you're out in the park. Oh, what can we see? What can we see that if I say the word, there's a s in the word? Sun. Hats. So it doesn't have to be at the beginning. We want to train the brain to be able to hear those sounds anywhere in the word. You might collect a speech sound table. On it, you can collect anything that's got the s speech sound. Don't you worry about it if it's not an S. Anything at all that when the child says the word, they say s in that word. You can do all sorts of things. It doesn't mean sitting with a pencil or sitting at a table, you know, especially if you've got boys. Make it fun, make it quick and easy. In the car, quick, what's the word? At. And if you think of only focusing on those 6 speech sounds, it makes it an awful lot easier. And those first 6 sound picks. So I've shown the lessons how I haven't even introduced the print until around about lesson 3. Then when we start to introduce the print, because we've been listening for those speech sounds, it's very easy for the child to understand, here, look at this is a picture of that sound. And that's when you start showing them the sound pics. You might call them letters, but we're going to call them sound pics. They're just pictures of speech sounds. You can get magnetic letters, whiteboards, magnetic whiteboards, cards with the sound pics on, and I would suggest you get an envelope where they've got their sound pics, which we're just starting off with what you think of as SAT-PIN, but the children think of as the sound pics. Put them in the envelope. Also have a sound pics word envelope, which is all the words they can create, like ant, that are made up of those 6 speech sound pics. We'll also have a tricky word envelope, which is high frequency words that they can't decode at the moment, but in most cases they are going to learn to decode them. But by using them at the beginning, we can create more meaningful sentences. For example, I was the. Because we're only using SAT-PIN, the s, at, p, it, n. We want to use I was the, so we can create more sentences, and we build up. So these are the high frequency tricky words that I use. Some of them are tricky yes, that means that they are going to be able to learn to decode them. They are phonetically decodable, and some of them are tricky no-nos, so they're not going to be decodable. But about 95% of the whole of the English language is decodable. When you're listening for words, you're listening for how many sounds there are. So when you're writing them or reading them, it also helps the children to put the 1, 2, 3s or 1, 2, 3, 4s as well, because this helps with the ordering for them. So with just these 6 sound pics, we're reading and spelling, but not just recognizing the sound pics, actually using them in reading and spelling activities. And it's also logical for the children. What's this here? It's an ant. Say the word ant. What sounds can you hear? You might start off with the last one and put the t on the number 3 or the first one. It really doesn't matter. But you're listening for the sounds ant, finding the sound pics and putting them on the right way. And it's like a puzzle. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. Once they've put them in order, then you're blending. So what's this a picture of? A pan. Put at pan. So they've put the pictures in the order, and if you gave them the word, they can actually read them. They can actually read those words because they look at the put it n, blend it into the word pin because they can hear that word, and they know that they're reading and they're spelling. Because we're focusing on just these 6, it's building confidence for every child. And as a parent or a teacher, you can also see which of the skills the children are finding easy and which they aren't. Now, if they've got good phonological awareness, they'll find all this a piece of cake and they're lucky. It doesn't mean they're more intelligent, it's just the way their brains work. But there are a lot of children who don't. So doing this right from the beginning means we know right from the beginning which are the children that need more help. But the good news is that we can modify those brain networks, and by the time the children are reading and spelling and whatever, by the end of perhaps term 2, term 3 of prep, the children have no idea that when they came to school they had poor phonological awareness. We also have a phrase and a character for all of these sound picks. You can see them in the picture here. These are from Read Write Inc. So when we're writing the letters, we're saying a phrase. Slither down the snake, round the apple, up down the leaf, down the tower, across the tower, down his plat, up round his head, down his body and dot for his head, down Nobby, up over his net. And this really helps children not only form the letters correctly, but also link that speech sound to the sound pick. Down Nobby, over the net. What happened with the tower? What was the tower one? Down the tower, across the tower. So tell me this word. Give me the sound square. So we're reading, writing and spelling just using this group. It's amazing. If we focus on this on the first term of prep, the children will just fly. So rather than rushing through learning lots and lots more letter sounds, focus on this group, making sure the children have got all of the skills and they're actually decoding books using just these sound picks before we move them on. This will give them the most amazing foundation. And Spelled South Australia have got readers, they've got free phonics readers that follow just that you have books just using these sound picks. Now, if you're using the speech sound picks approach, you'll start off with this group, which is the same group as Jolly Phonics. Then we move up to the purple group, and we move up to the yellow group. The next group is the blue level, and then finally we move on, so we focus on the speech sound clouds. There's a speech sound cloud for every speech sound in the English language. All of this is free resources or whatever, if you're trained in SSP. Now, SSP actually follows Letters and Sounds in the UK, which has got some really good free resources. If you have a look here at the Dandelion readers, this is what we suggest you get. So even though we're starting with SATPIN, you've got the resources to use from Spelled, we actually then start to move in this direction. So these books are really nice, and as I say, they just use those sound picks that the children. So it's a systematic and explicit way of teaching the alphabetic code. So there's reading and spelling and writing, building up on their code knowledge. But these readers are fantastic because they're really nice readers, but the children build up so they know where to go to next, starting from the first one in Unit 1, where they've got 4 books that are reinforcing the speech sounds at, it, and those sound picks. We move up, op, then they're learning book, g, etc., and they move all the way through. Now, ideally, by the end of even the first prep term or the first 2 terms, you can have actually got up to level 7. As long as the foundation, that SATPIN group, is done really well, the children will then actually whiz through. This is why it's important to get that stage done right, which is the stage that I really want to support you with, so that the children, it then becomes very easy, because then they know the skills, they've developed the phonological awareness, and they're just learning more and more sound picks. And then we can start to really discover the alphabetic code. It obviously doesn't stop at Unit 7. Dandelion, they go all the way through to fluent readers. So these are especially useful if you've got struggling readers in Year 2, Year 3, Year 4, whatever, because they can literally go back, learn the things that they've missed, but have a systematic approach to reading. And the readers you order in schools are probably one of the most important things that you will have that will predict reading success in your school. And at the moment, most schools aren't actually ordering the resources that are going to meet the needs of every child. So please do ask me about this. Join me on the Facebook page and I'll tell you how you can get them. I don't sell them. I don't make any money through recommending them. I just want to make sure that every child, every school has the best resources to meet the needs of every child. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope it's been useful.